Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to follow up on the Forex example on the US dollar, Canadian dollar that I posted earlier in the week to see how those particular trade setups have unfolded. But first, let's start with our risk disclaimer and remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades were actually taken. They're just shown for illustration and training purposes only. Also remind you there's a risk of loss of trading and investing. I'll say that another way. All professional traders know, understand and more importantly accept that losses can and will and do happen when trading. The trick is keeping those losses small, but they will happen. All trade decisions are your own sole responsibility. Right, let's have a look at the US dollar, Canadian dollar. As you can see, we've actually had a continued decline over the last couple of days. We're coming off nicely off a weekly resistance here, right the way up here earlier in May on our daily chart. But the two trade setups we were looking at a few days ago were on the 4-hourly chart. And it was this TS3 sell setup. So if I right mouse click, place the analysis on the chart, when we came back, or when we did the last video, I think the market was in and around here somewhere. So it hadn't reached the first target. But as you can see, the US dollar, Canadian dollar has continued to decline. It did reach its first target where a nice 5.9R profit was available. It's actually gone down a little bit further since then, and we'll have a look at how you could have managed that on the next trade setup we have on the 1-hourly chart. But anyway, on this 4-hourly chart, it did, as you can see, it did unfold as anticipated, reaching the first target where plus 5.9R profit would have been available. Remember, we use correct position sizing, in this case vary the number of lots to keep our initial risk under 2% of a sample $20,000 account. So that means when the losses come through, which they do, losses can and always do unfold. The losses are kept small at what we call one risk unit, but what we like to do with MTPredictor is, because we use position sizing, when the profits come through they're large. In this case you can see it's almost 6R, so 5.9 times the initial risk. So that was a good trade. Let's now go down to our 1-hourly chart, and if you remember here, actually I'll just put a bit more analysis on the 4-hourly chart. Let's clear that all off. Do you remember we had a DP off this pivot? So we had a DP resistance here, and then when we came down to the 1-hourly chart, there was our 4-hourly resistance. We had initial decline, an initial rally into our Holy Grail sell setup. If I right mouse click, do analysis, here was our first target. And when I did the last video, I think the market was in and around where my cursor is here. So it hadn't reached the first target, but you can see, as with the 4-hourly chart, we have reached the first target. The difference is here is when we reached the first target, which was in around here, if we come down to look at our MTP trend indicator, can you see as it had exceeded our strength bands? Our strength bands are our grey bands here. So when the indicator goes past the strength band, it indicates that the move on that particular time frame is strong, therefore is likely to carry on further. So when this happens, rather than coming out at the target, which would have been a nice 5.2R profit anyway, we swap to our trailing stop, which is our red and blue dots. You can see here, as the market's declining, it will be our red dots. So we trail at our red dots here, our ATR stop, and as you can see, that would have kept you short, kept you short, kept you short, and they would have been stopped out about here for a profit of just over 7R. So that would have been a very, very good trade indeed. So I thought it was good to actually follow up on a trade setup that we looked at in our last public video to see that the US dollar, Canadian dollar did indeed continue to decline. On this 1-hourly chart, not only did it reach the first target, but it exceeded that, so trailing with the ATR stop would have been a nice 7.3R profit. So a very good trade there. There have also been some other good trades on Forex. One in particular we've been looking at in our MTPredictor customer training webinars has been on the Australian dollar, US dollar, and this was actually on a 8-hourly chart. If I go out to the 8-hourly chart, and this was a TS4 Holy Grail buy setup, and this was brought to our attention by one of our traders down there in Australia, Bill. So hello to Bill there, and he highlighted this as a potential trade that he was looking at himself. And as you can see, that has also reached its target, where a potential profit of, in this case, 10R was available. So very, very well done to Bill there. That was a good trade setup. And again, we were looking at this over the last couple of weeks in our MTPredictor customer training webinar for MTPredictor customers only. So that was a nice trade there from one of our customers, Bill in Australia. So well done. Okay, so the only one I really wanted to look at today was on the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and show you how that has indeed followed or following up on that, to show you how the 4-hourly chart and the 1-hourly chart, the market did continue to decline to reach our first targets, and on the 1-hourly chart, trailing with the ATR stop to result in a nice 7R profit. So a good result on those particular trades over the last week.